I never thought my perfect life would crumble overnight. 5 years of marriage to Amanda, my college sweetheart. A successful contracting business I built from scratch. Even letting my younger brother Frank move in after graduation seemed like the right thing to do. Mom visited often, always doting on Amanda, especially during our struggles to conceive. Then I found the prenatal vitamins hidden in our guest bathroom dated 6 months back when Amanda and I had not been intimate in nearly a year. Before I continue, where are you watching from? Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Some people spend their entire lives chasing success. Me, I stumbled into it through sheer determination and a refusal to quit. The construction industry was not my planned career path when I was younger. Back then at 18, I was just a kid taking odd jobs to pay rent on my first apartment after high school. One summer gig with a local contractor changed everything. I discovered I had a knack for visualizing spaces differently than others did, seeing potential where most only saw problems. By 22, I had saved enough to get my contractor license and take on small renovation projects. Within 5 years, I had 6 employees and a reputation for delivering quality work on time and on budget. Now at 32, my company Summit Construction is one of the most respected custom home builders in the state. We specialize in luxury renovations, the kind that transform ordinary houses into dream homes. Our waiting list stretches 6 months, and we recently landed a multi-million-dollar contract with Westlake Developments to handle their entire portfolio of custom finishes. Last year, I finally purchased my own dream home, a 4-bedroom craftsman-style house in Meadowbrook Estates. The irony was not lost on me that after building dream homes for others for a decade, I finally had one of my own. The neighbors respected me, the business community sought my advice, and clients trusted me with their most valuable assets. I had built my reputation brick by brick, just like the homes I constructed through honesty, attention to detail, and never cutting corners even when it would have been easier. What few people knew was that my success came from a deep-seated need to prove myself. Growing up as the quiet, thoughtful older brother to Frank, the golden child athlete who seemed to coast through life on charm alone, I had learned early that I would need to work twice as hard for half the recognition. That drive became the foundation of everything I achieved, though at the time, I never imagined it would one day be the very thing that saved me when my world collapsed. Amanda came into my life during sophomore year of college. I was studying business management while working part-time for a construction firm. She was pursuing an education degree, determined to become an elementary school teacher. We met in the campus coffee shop when she spilled her latte all over my economics textbook. Instead of getting angry, I found myself lost in her apologetic green eyes and genuine smile. She insisted on buying me a new book and coffee. One coffee became dinner, which became a movie, which somehow turned into 5 years of dating through the rest of college and into our early careers. Our wedding was small but perfect, just 40 close friends and family at a lakeside venue in early autumn. Amanda looked breathtaking in her simple white gown, her dark hair crowned with tiny white flowers. We danced under string lights as the sun set, whispering promises about the life we would build together. For our honeymoon, we spent 2 weeks in Hawaii, hiking volcanic trails by day and planning our future by night. We decided then that we would wait 5 years before trying to have children. We wanted to establish our careers, save money, and enjoy being young and married before taking on parenthood. Those first 5 years were everything we had hoped for. Amanda secured a position teaching 2nd grade at Westfield Elementary, quickly becoming a favorite among students and parents alike. I grew my business from a small operation to a respected name in luxury construction. We traveled whenever possible weekend getaways to the coast, a 2-week tour of Italy for our 3rd anniversary, hiking trips to national parks. We renovated our starter home together, Amanda showing a surprising talent for interior design that complemented my construction skills. When our 5th anniversary approached, we decided it was time to start trying for a baby, just as we had planned on that Hawaiian beach. We converted the small 2nd bedroom of our house into a nursery planning space, painting vision boards of what we wanted it to become. Amanda downloaded ovulation tracking apps and bought books on conception. We were excited, optimistic, and completely unprepared for what was to come. The first few months of trying brought disappointment, but we remained hopeful. 6 months in, Amanda suggested we both get checked by specialists just to be safe. The doctor's news hit me like a punch to the gut. My sperm count was below average, and motility was an issue. Nothing that made conception impossible, the doctor assured us, but something that might make it more difficult than for other couples. I remembered Amanda's tight smile as she squeezed my hand in the doctor's office, saying it would be okay, that we had options. We tried everything. Dietary changes, special vitamins, timing intercourse with precision that drained all spontaneity from our intimate life. When a year passed with no success, we looked into more advanced options. The cost of IVF was staggering, but we had savings and nothing seemed more important than starting our family. The first round failed. The second round failed. The third round failed. Each negative test crushed something in both of us. Amanda became obsessed with pregnancy and babies. Our house filled with fertility books, special foods, and an ever-growing collection of supplements. Our conversations narrowed to ovulation cycles, implantation windows, and hormone levels. Meanwhile, I carried a growing burden of guilt. The doctors never said it was definitively my issue, but I knew. I could see it in the way Amanda researched male fertility treatments in the bottles of supplements she bought, specifically for me, in the forced enthusiasm, when she said next time will work after each failure. Our sex life, once passionate and connected, became mechanical. Scheduled intercourse on optimal days, with Amanda often checking her watch to ensure we hit the perfect window. There were nights I would lie awake after she had fallen asleep, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was failing her as a husband by not being able to give her the one thing she wanted most. As our marriage strained under the weight of our fertility struggles, my younger brother, Frank, graduated with a computer science degree from State University. Despite his impressive credentials on paper, he struggled to find work, or more accurately, to keep it. Frank had always been charming and charismatic, the opposite of my more serious disposition. Those qualities helped him land jobs easily, but his habitual lateness, tendency to cut corners, and general irresponsibility inevitably led to him getting fired within months. When Frank called asking if he could stay with us just until he got back on his feet, I agreed without hesitation. Amanda was surprisingly enthusiastic about the idea, suggesting we could use the company and help around the house while we continued our fertility journey. Frank moved into our guest bedroom 8 months ago, bringing little more than his clothes, gaming system, and that infectious energy that had always made him the center of attention. At first, having Frank around seemed like a positive change. He helped with household chores, cooked occasional meals, and brought a lightness to our home that had been missing during our years of fertility struggles. He and Amanda bonded quickly over shared interests in true crime podcasts and reality cooking shows that I had never gotten into. I was grateful to see Amanda laughing again, even if I was often too exhausted from 12-hour workdays to join them. My mother, Diana, increased her visits after Frank moved in. Since losing Dad to a heart attack 5 years ago, Mom had leaned heavily on me for emotional support. I had become her de facto handyman, financial advisor, and shoulder to cry on. She never said it explicitly, but it was clear she still viewed Frank as the baby of the family who needed protecting despite him being 27 years old. Their relationship had always been close, almost uncomfortably so at times. Mom would forgive Frank's irresponsibility while lecturing me about working too much or not calling often enough. Mom took a particular interest in our fertility struggles, often bringing articles she had cut from magazines or printouts from websites about miracle fertility treatments. She would corner Amanda during Sunday dinners, which had become a weekly tradition at our house, whispering intently about ovulation cycles and conception tips. I found it invasive, but Amanda seemed to appreciate Mom's interest, often stepping away for private conversations that ended abruptly when I entered the room. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags. The way Frank and Amanda would stop laughing when I walked into a room. How my mother started visiting on weekdays when she knew I would be at work. Amanda buying new clothes and changing her hairstyle after years of saying she was too depressed about our fertility issues to care about her appearance. The mysterious phone calls that ended as soon as I came home. But I was working 60-plus-hour weeks on our biggest development project ever. When things seemed off, I blamed my exhaustion and stress, convincing myself I was imagining problems. The truth began unraveling on what should have been an ordinary Thursday. I had taken a rare day off to recover from a minor injury at a job site. A falling beam had grazed my shoulder. Nothing serious, but painful enough that my project manager insisted I take a day to rest. I was looking for aspirin in our guest bathroom, the one Frank used primarily when I found them prenatal vitamins prescribed to Amanda dated 6 months earlier. I stood frozen bottle in hand as reality crashed down around me. Amanda and I had not been intimate in almost 10 months. Between my long work hours, her teaching schedule, and the clinical approach to conception that had killed our spontaneity, our physical relationship had all but disappeared. Yet here were prenatal vitamins dated during that dry spell. My mind raced through possibilities, each more painful than the last. When Amanda came home from school and found me sitting at the kitchen table with the vitamin bottle in front of me, her face drained of color. "You are home early," she stammered, her eyes fixed on the prenatal vitamins. Before she could fabricate an explanation, her phone chimed with a text. She glanced down reflexively, and I caught a glimpse of my mother's name on the screen with the preview. "Did you tell him yet? We need to talk about." The rest was cut off. That night I barely slept. While Amanda tossed and turned beside me, I replayed every interaction from the past year, in my mind seeing them through a new lens of suspicion. The next morning I called into work saying I needed another day to recover. As soon as Amanda left for school, I began my investigation. Our shared computer revealed deleted browser histories that I managed to recover, showing searches for obstetricians in a neighboring town 20 miles from any doctor we had ever used. Credit card statements showed charges at a women's health clinic on days Amanda had claimed to be at teacher workshops. In her desk drawer hidden beneath tax documents, I found ultrasound images with dates that aligned perfectly with the prescription date on the vitamins. My hands trembling, I checked our banking records and discovered a savings account in Amanda's name that I had never known about, with regular deposits from my mother's account. Email exchanges between Amanda, Frank, and Mom revealed the devastating truth. My wife was 6 months pregnant with my brother's child, and all 3 of them had been actively hiding it from me. The emails laid out their plan in sickening detail. They would wait until the pregnancy was far enough along to be safe, then present it to me as a miracle resulting from our last failed IVF attempt finally taking hold. My mother had been financing prenatal care at a distant clinic to avoid detection. Frank and Amanda had been having an affair since shortly after he moved in. And worst of all, my own mother had discovered their betrayal months ago, but instead of confronting them, she had actively helped conceal it, believing it would give me the family I had always wanted. I waited until Sunday dinner when all 3 would be present. I set the table as usual, but instead of plates I laid out printed copies of their emails, the ultrasound photos, bank statements, and the prenatal vitamin prescription. When they entered the dining room, their faces showed confusion, then recognition, then fear. "What is all this?" my mother asked, though her trembling hands betrayed that she already knew. "The truth," I said simply, my voice steadier than I expected. "I know everything." Amanda broke down, immediately collapsing into a chair with heaving sobs. Frank paced nervously, running his hands through his hair, launching into a rambling explanation about how it just happened, and we never meant for things to go this far. My mother shockingly maintained her composure. "Boris, we were going to tell you," she said, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled away as if her touch would burn me. "We just needed to find the right time. This could be a blessing in disguise. You always wanted a child." "A child of my own." I corrected her. "Not my brother's affair. Baby. That you all conspired to pass off as mine." The full story spilled out over the next hour. Frank admitted the affair had begun within weeks of him moving in during a night when I was working late. Amanda tearfully claimed it had not been about love, but about her desperate need to experience pregnancy after our failures. Most shocking was my mother's role upon discovering their affair 4 months ago. rather than stopping it or telling me she had encouraged them to continue while developing a plan to integrate the baby into our lives. "You could not give her a baby, Boris," my mother said, her words cutting deeper than any knife. "Frank could. Sometimes family has to make difficult choices for the greater good." "We thought you would be happy," Frank added, his tone suggesting I was being unreasonable. "Once you got past the initial shock, you would have a child to raise." "Isn't that what you wanted?" Amanda finally spoke directly to me, her hands protectively cradling her stomach, which I now noticed showed the slight but unmistakable curve of pregnancy. "The baby needs a father, Boris. You are still my husband. We can work through this. Lots of couples survive affairs." "This was not just an affair," I responded, my voice hollow. "This was a conspiracy. A months-long plot to deceive me about something fundamental to my identity and our marriage. You were going to let me raise another man's child, without my knowledge or consent." I stood up, gathered the evidence into a folder, and walked out without another word. I drove aimlessly for hours, eventually checking into a hotel on the outskirts of town. For 3 days, I barely ate or slept, ignoring the barrage of calls and messages from all 3 of them. Their texts ranged from apologetic to manipulative, Amanda begging for forgiveness, Frank making excuses, my mother insisting I needed to think about the innocent child. The betrayal cut so deep that I experienced physical symptoms, chest pains, insomnia, complete loss of appetite. Every happy memory with Amanda now felt poisoned. Every childhood moment with Frank felt like foreshadowing to his ultimate betrayal. My mother's voice in my head, once comforting, now triggered waves of nausea. I cycled between blinding rage and hollow grief, contemplating revenge scenarios, before collapsing into emotional exhaustion. On the 4th day, my business partner, James, called concerned about my absence from our biggest project. Something about his straightforward worry broke through my isolation. That night I met him at a quiet bar and told him everything. He listened without interruption, ordered us both whiskeys, and then made a simple offer. "My guest house is empty. Stay there until you figure things out. No rent, no timeline, no pressure." James also introduced me to his sister Laurel, a family law attorney who specialized in difficult divorces. Over coffee the next morning, she laid out my options with clarity and compassion that had been absent from my life for months. For the first time since finding those prenatal vitamins, I slept through the night, waking with purpose rather than despair. With Laurel's guidance, I began constructing a strategic response. I met with Sarah Goldstein, one of the top divorce attorneys in the state, who helped me document the evidence of infidelity and conspiracy. I secured my business assets, changed passwords on all accounts, and initiated the legal process that would protect what I had spent a lifetime building. The private investigator, Sarah, gathered additional evidence of their ongoing deception, including footage of all 3 shopping for baby supplies together, just days after my discovery. 2 weeks after walking out of Sunday dinner, I returned to the house with cease and desist letters for all 3, prohibiting them from accessing joint accounts or making claims against my business. My mother was waiting in the kitchen, clearly stationed there to intercept me before I could speak with Amanda. Her approach had shifted from justification to emotional manipulation. "Blood is thicker than water, Boris," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "We are family. Families forgive each other." "This is not about forgiveness," I replied, placing her legal documents on the counter. "This is about betrayal. You chose Frank over me just like you always have. You helped my wife deceive me about something fundamental to our marriage. That is not what family does." Frank emerged from the guest room looking disheveled and pathetic. "Bro, we never meant to hurt you," he said, using the nickname from our childhood. "It just happened. We made a mistake." "A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill or buying the wrong groceries," I said coldly. "What you did was a deliberate choice made repeatedly over months. You chose to sleep with my wife, live under my roof while betraying me, and conspire to trick me into raising your child." Amanda appeared last her pregnancy, now visibly showing at almost 7 months. She had clearly been crying, her face puffy and red. "Boris, please," she whispered. "Can we just talk about this, about our future, about the baby?" "The baby will need a paternity test," I said, watching their collective shock at my resolved tone. "All of you assumed I would eventually accept this situation because I wanted a child. But I wanted a family built on honesty and respect, not lies and manipulation." Something shifted in me as I watched them scramble to maintain control of a situation rapidly slipping from their grasp. I had come seeking justice, perhaps even revenge. But standing there in the home we had built, I suddenly saw with perfect clarity that remaining entangled with them in any way, even through resentment, would only keep me trapped. "I am done being manipulated by any of you," I said, with a calmness that surprised even me. I placed the divorce papers on the table alongside the property division proposal my attorney had prepared. "Amanda, you have 48 hours to sign these documents. Mother Frank, you have until the end of the week to remove your belongings from this house. I will be selling it as part of the divorce settlement." As I turned to leave, Amanda grabbed my arm, tears streaming down her face. "You cannot just throw away 5 years of marriage," she cried. "What about everything we built together?" I gently removed her hand. "You already did," I replied, walking out the door without looking back, experiencing my first moment of freedom from the toxic family dynamics that had shaped my entire life. The days following my confrontation brought practical challenges that oddly enough provided structure during emotional chaos. James's guest house became my sanctuary, a simple one-bedroom cottage behind his family's colonial home in a quiet neighborhood across town. The physical distance from my former life gave me space to process the betrayal without daily reminders. I threw myself into work, finding solace in the tangible problems of construction that had clear, definitive solutions, unlike the messy human drama consuming my personal life. My employees noticed the change, but respectfully maintained boundaries. My project manager, Terry, took on more client meetings while I focused on site supervision and technical challenges. The physical labor of occasionally working alongside my crew provided both distraction and exhaustion that helped me sleep at night. Clients who had become friends over the years sensed something was wrong but did not pry when I deflected personal questions. Their continued trust in my professional capabilities became an unexpected anchor during those early weeks. Finding the right therapist took 3 attempts, but Dr. Marshall, a straightforward older man who specialized in trauma and betrayal, proved to be exactly what I needed. In our sessions, I learned about family betrayal dynamics, narcissistic manipulation, and the complex grief that comes with losing not just a spouse but core beliefs about family itself. The vocabulary he provided helped me understand my experience was not unique. There were patterns to this kind of betrayal, and therefore proven paths through recovery. Maintaining no contact with all 3 betrayers became my non-negotiable boundary, though they tested it relentlessly. I blocked their numbers and emails, returned mail unopened, and instructed my attorney to handle all necessary communications. Despite my precautions, my mother showed up at job sites, Frank tried connecting through mutual friends, and Amanda sent tearful video messages through acquaintances. Each attempt reinforced my resolve to maintain distance, as their tactics remained manipulative rather than genuinely remorseful. Thanksgiving arrived just 8 weeks after my discovery. Rather than spend it alone dwelling on painful memories of family gatherings past, I accepted an invitation from James and his wife to join their extended family celebration. Surrounded by their noisy, affectionate relatives who knew nothing of my situation, I experienced my first genuine laughter in months. That evening, walking back to the guest house with leftover pie, I realized I could build new traditions and connections to replace what I had lost. The manipulation attempts grew more desperate as the legal process advanced. My mother launched a campaign with extended family, painting me as unreasonable and unforgiving. Several cousins called, urging me to think of the innocent child and be the bigger person. Frank sent a 10-page handwritten letter full of childhood memories and excuses, carefully avoiding any actual accountability for his actions. Amanda's strategy shifted to her pregnancy, sending updates through mutual friends, clearly hoping maternal milestones would soften my resolve. Their most calculated move came as a united front. All three appeared at my office, unannounced, one afternoon. Amanda visibly in her third trimester, staging what they clearly intended as an intervention. My receptionist, aware of the situation, immediately called security while I retreated to my private office. Their removal from the building became fodder for office gossip, but also silenced those who had wondered if I was being too harsh in my response. Through my attorney, I learned the baby, a boy, was born in early January. Despite my explicit requests, they sent a birth announcement to my business address with a photo of the newborn and a handwritten note: "Your nephew needs his uncle. Family is forever." I recognize the manipulation for what it was, understanding now that their definition of family meant obligation without respect, loyalty without reciprocity. I donated the baby items that arrived the following week to a women's shelter without opening the packages. The legal proceedings concluded more quickly than anticipated, largely due to the overwhelming evidence of infidelity and the skilled negotiation of my attorney. The final divorce settlement protected my business, entirely divided our personal property fairly, and limited alimony due to the documented circumstances. The paternity test confirmed what we all already knew: Frank was indeed the father, making the custody arrangement between him and Amanda their problem, not mine. My mother made one final attempt at reconciliation, arriving at the guest house on what would have been my parents' anniversary. For the first time, I invited her inside, listening calmly as she cycled through justifications, emotional appeals, and finally a tearful admission that she had made a terrible mistake. Something had shifted in me by then. I felt neither the burning rage nor the crushing grief that had dominated those early months. Instead, I felt a calm certainty as I told her that while I no longer harbored active resentment, I could not welcome her back into my life. "Some betrayals cannot be undone, Mom," I said gently but firmly. "I wish you well, but the relationship we had is over. I hope you find peace with that someday." As the 1-year mark of my discovery approached, Dr. Tane Marshall suggested a symbolic closure ritual. On that anniversary, I hiked alone to a mountain overlook that had been a favorite spot of mine since childhood. I brought printed photos of Amanda, Frank, and my mother, along with a letter I had written, expressing everything I had never said to them. After reading it aloud to the empty wilderness, I burned both the photos and letter, watching the ashes scatter in the wind. The weight that lifted from my shoulders told me I was finally ready to move beyond mere survival into actually rebuilding. That rebuilding took many forms over the following months. I expanded my business into an adjacent county, breaking ground on our most ambitious development yet. The project included affordable housing units alongside luxury homes, something I had wanted to pursue for years but had hesitated to undertake. With nothing left to lose, innovation felt less risky than stability. I discovered an unexpected passion for mentoring young contractors from disadvantaged backgrounds, establishing an apprenticeship program that provided technical training alongside business education. Teaching others the skills that had saved me financially during my personal collapse gave purpose to my suffering. Many of these young men came from broken homes or challenging circumstances, and I found they related to my no-nonsense approach and appreciated my emphasis on building a life defined by integrity rather than circumstances. 6 months after finalizing my divorce, I purchased a new home, a mid-century modern house on 3 wooded acres outside town. The architectural style bore no resemblance to the craftsman home I had shared with Amanda, and the location required a longer commute. But those differences were precisely the point. Every design choice, from the minimalist furniture to the expansive windows overlooking nature, reflected my new priorities: simplicity, transparency, and peace. My friendship circle underwent a natural culling and renewal. Those who had enabled the betrayal or pressured me toward an artificial reconciliation gradually faded away. In their place, I developed authentic connections with people who valued straightforward communication and demonstrated loyalty through actions rather than mere words. Weekly dinners with James and his family evolved into a genuine chosen family tradition. Occasional dates introduced me to women with their own stories of resilience, though I remained transparent about my cautious approach to new relationships. 14 months after my world imploded, I met Sophie at a charity auction for the youth trade program I supported. As director of a community arts center, she had her own history of rebuilding after betrayal, having discovered her former fiancé's double life just weeks before their wedding. Our shared experience created an immediate understanding, but it was her uncompromising authenticity that drew me in. We moved slowly, both hyper-aware of red flags but equally committed to not allowing past wounds to dictate future possibilities. Throughout my journey, I learned lessons that no success in business could have taught me. I discovered that true family is built on respect and integrity, not merely shared DNA or legal documents. The people who stood by me demonstrated that genuine support comes without conditions or expectations of blind loyalty. Most surprisingly, I found that the betrayal that nearly destroyed me had ultimately freed me from toxic dynamics I might otherwise have spent a lifetime accommodating. I occasionally heard updates about the child through distant family connections. While I held no ill will toward an innocent baby, I maintained firm boundaries about my involvement. Society often pressures men to step up in complicated family situations, but I had learned that true responsibility sometimes means knowing when to walk away. The child had 2 biological parents and a grandmother fully capable of providing care. My presence would only perpetuate unhealthy dynamics and conflicting loyalties. Looking back from the perspective of time and healing, I harbor no regrets about walking away despite the immense pressure to reconcile. The authentic life I built from the ashes of betrayal brought a peace I had never known while striving to earn love and approval from people incapable of true loyalty. My relationship with Sophie progressed naturally, built on a foundation of radical honesty and mutual respect. We discussed building our own family someday, knowing it would be created with integrity rather than deception. The most profound realization came quietly on an ordinary Tuesday when I found myself whistling while reviewing building plans. I had not only survived the unimaginable, but I had discovered my own strength in the process. The betrayal that was meant to break me instead became the catalyst for building a life of authenticity I might never have had the courage to create otherwise. Sometimes losing what you think you want leads you directly to what you truly need. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately freed you from a situation that was already toxic? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real stories of resilience and rebuilding. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the family we choose becomes more precious than the one we were born into.